What if I told you that one of the wealthiest people in a small Vermont town spent his days sweeping floors, driving an old used car, and wearing the same patched up coat for years? No flashy business, no winning lottery ticket, no six-figure salary. Just a quiet life built on patience, discipline, and choices almost no one noticed. It sounds like the setup for an unbelievable Hollywood story. But this isn't a tale about striking it rich overnight. It's something far more surprising. It's a story that challenges everything we've been taught about money, success, and happiness. Because if earning more is supposed to make life better, why do so many wealthy people still feel like something is missing? Why does the finish line seem to move farther away every time we get closer? This is what I call the quiet millionaire paradox. And once you understand it, you may never think about wealth the same way again. From the time we're young, we're handed the same formula: earn more, buy more, upgrade everything. A bigger paycheck, a nicer home, a newer car. Keep working harder because one day you'll finally have enough. Then social media makes the chase even stronger. Every scroll brings another luxury vacation, another dream house, another picture-perfect lifestyle. It's easy to believe that if we could just reach that level, happiness would finally follow. That belief shapes our lives. It fuels our ambition, our stress, and the sacrifices we make along the way. We trade our time, our health, and sometimes even our closest relationships for the promise that a larger bank account will eventually make everything worthwhile. But what if we're chasing the wrong finish line? What if the success we're running toward can never deliver the fulfillment we expect? To answer that question, we need to look at the remarkable life of Ronald Read, an ordinary janitor whose quiet decisions revealed what real wealth actually looks like. For decades, Ronald Read was simply another familiar face around Brattleboro, Vermont. His neighbors knew him as polite, humble, and intensely private. He blended into the background, usually wearing faded flannel shirts, well-worn jeans, and old work boots. He spent 25 years working at a local gas station. After retiring, he wasn't finished working. He took a part-time job as a janitor at JCPenney, quietly sweeping floors while living the same modest life he'd always known. Nothing about him suggested wealth. He drove an old used car. To avoid paying for parking, he'd leave it several blocks away and walk into town. If a button came off his coat, he didn't buy a new one. He fastened it with a safety pin and kept wearing it. Even into his 90s, he cut and stacked his own firewood to heat his small home during Vermont winters. Anyone looking at Ronald would probably assume he was living paycheck to paycheck. But behind that ordinary life was an extraordinary secret. Whenever he wasn't working, Ronald devoted his free time to learning about investing. He regularly visited his local library, where he'd spend hours reading the Wall Street Journal and studying businesses. He wasn't trying to outsmart the market or chase the hottest stocks. Instead, he followed a simple strategy with remarkable consistency. He invested in solid, dividend-paying companies he understood, held them for decades, and faithfully reinvested every dividend along the way. There were no shortcuts, no risky bets, just patience compounded over a lifetime. When Ronald Read passed away in 2014 at the age of 92, the news stunned not only his hometown but people across America. The quiet janitor with the patched-up coat had quietly accumulated a fortune worth nearly $8 million. But that's not the most remarkable part of the story. The real lesson isn't how much money he had, it's how little he needed. Despite being a millionaire many times over, Ronald never bought a mansion. He never collected luxury cars or filled his closets with expensive clothes. His happiness came from something far less expensive: simple routines, meaningful work, and the freedom to live life on his own terms. Then came one final surprise. When his estate was settled, Ronald Read gave almost all of his fortune away. Roughly $4.8 million went to the local hospital, and another $1.2 million was donated to the very library where he had spent countless hours teaching himself how to invest. His wealth was never about showing people how successful he was. It became a tool for improving the community that had quietly shaped his entire life. That's the quiet millionaire paradox. A man who could have afforded almost anything chose a life centered on purpose instead of possessions. And his story forces us to ask an uncomfortable question. If money isn't the destination, then what are we really chasing? Ronald Read's life perfectly reflects what happiness researchers have been discovering for years. Money absolutely improves life when it helps meet basic needs. If you're struggling to pay for housing, groceries, or healthcare, every additional dollar brings more security, less stress, and greater peace of mind. But after those essentials are covered, something begins to change. Each additional dollar adds a little less happiness than the one before it. A widely discussed Princeton study published in 2010 suggested that emotional well-being stopped rising significantly once annual income reached roughly $75,000. Adjusted for inflation, that income level would be considerably higher today, but the core idea hasn't changed. The first few $1,000s you earn when you're struggling can completely change your life. The millionth dollar, it rarely changes how you feel in the same way. At a certain point, the happiness curve begins to level off, and that's where so many people get stuck. We make it past survival, yet we never stop running. We convince ourselves that the same equation still applies. More money equals more happiness. So, we keep working longer, chasing bigger numbers, believing the next milestone will finally fill whatever feels missing inside. But fulfillment doesn't come from a balance sheet. It comes from how you experience your life. Even some of the world's wealthiest people have admitted this. One successful entrepreneur once remarked, "I don't know many happy rich people." Think about that. These are people with private jets, luxury homes, and virtually unlimited financial resources. Yet many still describe feeling restless, anxious, or disconnected. Why? Because once you can afford almost anything, buying one more thing stops making much difference. The deepest forms of happiness come from places money can never fully reach. Purpose, relationships, contribution, and that's exactly what Ronald Read seemed to understand long before most people ever think about it. His life wasn't centered on accumulating wealth for its own sake. It was centered on building a meaningful life. He found dignity in honest work, no matter how ordinary it seemed. He built genuine relationships within his community. And he quietly planned to use his fortune to improve the lives of others after he was gone. The millions weren't the destination. They were simply the result of living according to values that mattered. The real wealth was the life he created. So how do we avoid falling into the same trap? How do we stop chasing money as the goal and start using it as a tool? Ronald Read's life offers 3 powerful lessons. The first is to measure wealth in time, not just dollars. Your most valuable asset isn't sitting in your investment account. It's the limited number of hours you'll ever have. The real purpose of money is to give you more control over those hours. It should create the freedom to spend your life on what matters most. Instead of constantly asking, "How can I make more money?" try asking a different question. How much is enough for the life I actually want? For Ronald, the answer wasn't very much. Ironically, because he never felt the need to spend endlessly, he ended up building an enormous fortune that eventually benefited countless other people. The second lesson is to discover purpose in the work you're already doing. Many people believe purpose requires a dramatic life change, a new career, a new city, a completely different life. But Ronald Read found meaning while sweeping floors. That's the heart of the quiet millionaire paradox. Fulfillment doesn't come from your job title. It comes from the value you create. There's quiet dignity in solving problems, serving others, and making life a little better for the people around you. Ask yourself a simple question. Who benefits from what I do every day? Changing your focus from earning a paycheck to making a contribution can completely transform how work feels. The third lesson is to give your financial goals a deeper purpose. Saying, "I want to become a millionaire," is just a number, but saving enough to spend an extra day each week with your family, building enough financial security to leave a job that's making you miserable, or creating a legacy that supports a cause you truly care about. Those are goals with real meaning. When your money serves a purpose beyond itself, building wealth stops feeling like an endless race. It becomes a mission. Ronald Read left behind a lesson that many people spend their entire lives trying to understand. He lived quietly. He worked an ordinary job. He followed simple routines, yet he became one of the wealthiest people in his community, not only financially, but in the way he lived. He showed us that being wealthy and living a rich life are not the same thing. His life quietly challenged a culture that celebrates displaying wealth instead of building it. He reminded us that true wealth isn't measured by the size of your portfolio. It's measured by purpose, by meaningful routines, by the people you help, and by the freedom to decide for yourself when enough is truly enough. Because chasing more, simply for the sake of more, will never satisfy you. Money is a powerful tool. It can buy a beautiful house, but it can't create a loving home. It can pay for company, but it can't build genuine relationships. It can provide comfort, but it can't give your life meaning. That's the quiet millionaire paradox. In the end, money matters most when it helps you build a life that truly matters. So let me ask you one question. What does living a rich life mean to you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story and want more insights into building wealth the smart way, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. This is Finance Haven, where better financial ideas lead to better financial decisions, and better decisions shape a better future.